to a tour bus. Still the same game except I'm pulling more sluts, more butts, more bucks, never giving more fucks. Did it my way, I'm never taking shortcuts. Raised in a town like fool, who put you up on, huh? E40 Mac Dre's.
I just can't do it. I can't take this shit no more, man.
Well, here we go again. So for those of you that don't know yet, I made a video on Nick Contino, aka Lilly Contino, about 2 weeks ago, calling him out for his creepy behavior online while claiming to be a trans person. I basically talked about all the controversies he has been in, and how he will always try to manipulate people into believing everything he says, or try to play the victim in any bad scenario he gets himself into. The video did surprisingly well than what I was expecting. So I do want to take a minute and say thank you all for the support. But now recently, Nick has gotten himself into some more controversy, and it's actually a lot worse than the ones I talked about before. So there is a TikToker called Colleen, who is another transgender content creator, and she has made a 3-part series calling out Nick for some disgusting things he has done to her and others. In the first video, Colleen explains that Nick was planning to go on a trip to Las Vegas and wanted to take her with him. Now, this wouldn't really seem as bad at first until you find out why Nick actually wanted Colleen to come with him, and it's honestly very sickening.
A few weeks ago, Lilly tried to coerce me into having sex with her using her status as a trans influencer with my wife sitting right next to me. I was first introduced to Lilly by my wife, who was a member of her Discord server, and she would always tell me about all the hate Lilly would get, and I eventually just had a soft spot and was like, hey, let me contact Lilly because I understand how bad it can feel to have the hate mob on you as a trans influencer. And then cut to a few weeks ago, Lilly messaged me with the idea of, do you want to go on a work trip with me to Las Vegas? And I tell her immediately no, because I'm on a Canadian work permit, and the moment I leave Canada, it goes null and void. It's not good anymore. But then we hopped on a Discord video chat, and she was still really insistent on wanting me to get to the US ASAP so we could meet together. She really wanted to know the nitty-gritty of why I couldn't currently come to the US. Meanwhile, I'm just wondering, why is she so urgent about this? Then she just pops out with a bait and switch of, oh, I wanted to actually go to Las Vegas to do OF content together. My wife is sitting literally right next to me. Lilly is fully aware of my wife JC and how we're together and how we're monogamous. I never hinted to Lilly that I was interested in anything like that, and I'm wondering why she assumed I would just agree to it immediately if borders weren't an issue, because no, I would not have agreed to that under any circumstances. We didn't have that kind of relationship at all, me and Lilly. So after our call, I'm just sitting there, very exhausted, wondering, why do I feel so bothered right now? And I think about it over and over and over again. And I asked JC, did Lilly just sexually harass me? It's like, I don't know, like, if I could get you to imagine this, it's like if you had a coworker and they just randomly ask this to you, that's how it feels. It's very inappropriate. And listen, I have an OF too, and I have plenty of friends that have OFs too. But the thing is, collabs usually don't work this way. There's always a mutual respect there, and they both already know before the pitch even happens that both parties are even open to a collab. I never did a collab with another trans influencer, so I don't know why she would even get that idea. But for me, this just feels like Lilly does not know boundaries at all, and sex is just a toy to her.
Now, for those of you that don't know what a Canadian work permit is, it's basically a document that allows non-Canadian citizens or permanent residents to work in Canada for a temporary period. Work permits are issued by Immigration, Refugees, and Citizenship Canada, IRCC. People get Canadian work permits to work and live in Canada temporarily and to improve their chances of becoming permanent residents. In order to become a Canada citizen, you must transition from your work permit to permanent resident status by applying through an immigration program like the Canadian Experience class. Then meet the residency requirements by living in Canada for at least 1,095 days within the 5 years before applying for citizenship, and pass the necessary language and citizenship tests if applicable. Essentially, you must first gain permanent resident status before you can apply for citizenship. Now you can see that last part alone shows it's a pretty difficult process just to become a Canadian citizen. And when it comes to doing all this to become a citizen, you need to make sure that you're making all these requirements, or else you could have your work permit revoked. So it's completely understandable as to why Colleen doesn't want to go to Vegas with Nick, since she doesn't want to risk losing her permit. However, for Nick, that excuse doesn't seem to matter to him because he kept insisting on her to come to Vegas with him. This would obviously backfire on Nick after Colleen called him out for this, because Nick pretty much harassed her just to get her to go to Vegas so they can do OnlyFans content together. It pretty much showed that Nick had no respect for when it came to other people's boundaries and will try anyway to manipulate someone to fulfill his sick fantasies. So after Colleen made her first video calling out Nick for his disgusting behavior, she would follow up with another video backing up all her claims. and the proof she ends up showing in the video is just completely shocking.
Hi, sorry it took so long, but I had to really gather my thoughts because when I uploaded my video yesterday, Lilly decided to react to it on her live stream. She ended up sticking her entire fan base on me, which was not very nice, but I'm ready. I have receipts. When she first messaged me to pitch her idea to go to Vegas, she wanted to basically pitch it as a fun girls trip, and I was friendly about it, but I also made sure she knew that, hey, listen, I cannot go to the US right now because I'm trying to get my permanent residence here in Canada, and if I leave, the whole process gets halted. It's a whole big thing. I can't do it. And she's known about this for months, by the way. Anyway, she wanted to go on a Discord call, and I agreed, and I had JC sit right next to me because her name was brought up, and she pushed me again for more details on why I couldn't come to the US, and she also wanted an exact timeline of when she thought I would be able to do it, and I said probably 8 months or so, but I thought it was weird to even ask. But suddenly the subject changed to her wanting to actually collab with me, and my innocent mind thinks, oh, she probably just means like TikTok or Instagram, right? Because I've told her before that OF is like such a small part of my life. I post like the bare minimum like once a week. I don't do anything crazy. It's very softcore, I'm not gonna lie. And TikTok and Instagram are pretty much my main focus. And I answer her pitch of wanting to collab, and I basically just say, no, because I kind of like working alone. But then I feel like she wasn't even listening to anything I was saying there, because she was actually like, oh, no. I mean, I was thinking of an OF collab. And this is where I have a lot more information. Lily wanted me to go to this place in Vegas where a company named Queer Crush, who she met at a Pride event in San Francisco, were setting up sets and cameras to film professional looking porn. She even sent me a link to the website right here while we were talking. And I didn't take a look at the link until like yesterday, but I checked it yesterday, and the kind of stuff that they're filming is very much hardcore. It is very much out of my comfort zone, and I think Lily knew that. Lily went on to mention how it would benefit us both financially, which I call BS on that part because I'm much more successful on that platform than her, no offense. And right after she pitched us doing an OF collab, I immediately reminded her that I was monogamous. This is not even mentioning the fact that I have had a feeling that Lily's had a crush on me for quite a while. She would always comment on every single one of my pictures with hearts. And what kind of confirmed this to me was the fact that her Plan B influencer that is now apparently currently going with her to Las Vegas, Lily has told us in Discord plenty of times that she's had a crush on her and that she used to subscribe to her own fans before they even started talking. And now she's suddenly going to Vegas, which is interesting because Lily reached out to her and now she's invited her to do this thing with her. I know she's probably going to just brush this off like she didn't do anything wrong, but it felt so wrong because I met her and I talked to her under the guise that I was basically a friend slash mentor to her. And she completely neglected that and just saw me as dollar signs and a piece of meat. Sorry, I forgot one thing. So before I even went public with this, I got JC to message Lily for me, telling her how upset I was and how I didn't even want to be around. And JC did mention the OF part. So this kind of confirms that Lily does know about that if she ever tries to deny it again, which she did. Her apology was really just like, yeah, it was just for work. But no, I know that wasn't the case.
Absolute disgusting behavior. And the fact that people still support Nick after this blows my mind. This video basically puts a bad look on Nick because it shows that he only wanted to fulfill his fantasies with Colleen and make some money off of the collab. So after all this came out, Nick would then quickly respond to Colleen's accusations. The only problem was that this video that Nick made was clearly made to manipulate people into thinking he's the victim.
I'd like to start with some context about Colleen and I's relationship before all this happened. So last April, I was going through a really tough time, something that actually I learned Colleen had also gone through before. She reached out, was really supportive, really nice, and honestly, her support was one of the reasons that I was able to pick myself back up and start creating again. From there, Colleen and her partner were super involved in our community. It was great to have them. Over time, we became friends, and like any friend, I would always post something nice in her comment section. I didn't have a crush on her. I was just a friend from the fan section saying, go Colleen. Now, independent of Colleen, I recently decided to start making a new kind of content. One of the things that I thought would be helpful to kickstart that effort would be to collaborate with people in the same space. Colleen is in that space. For the record, collaborations are super common among any kind of social media creator, be it this kind of content or other kinds of content. I'd encourage you to think about all the times you've seen two content creators come together to partner on a video. It happens all the time. And since I've been wanting to go to Vegas a lot on my own, I figured it would be cool, two birds with one stone, get a couple friends, go down, do fun stuff, and also make it a little more worth our while, do some collaboration on content. Colleen seemed like a good person to ask because she already does this kind of content for a living, so I didn't think it was an out of left field ask to say, hey, this thing that you do for work, I'm starting to do it too. What if we partnered up for a thing? Not to mention, I thought her content was awesome and I really admired her for it, and I would have loved a chance to collaborate with her. Now, Colleen contradicts herself a couple of times over the course of her videos. In the first one, she talks about how we were discussing Las Vegas in the chat before I brought it up to her on the video call. That's not true. And in her second video, she contradicts it by saying that I brought it up to her for the first time on our video call. That's true. On that video call, I said, hey, wouldn't it be cool if you, me, and your partner, and by the way, her partner was there for this. It was all three of us. I said, wouldn't it be cool if me, you, and your partner had a fun trip to Las Vegas? We'll do the Sphere. I want to go to a Mega Mart, maybe see a couple shows. It'll be super fun. And while we're there, it would be cool for us to film some content because ultimately I'm starting to make more content. I like your content. It would be cool for us to partner. Colleen immediately said, actually, I'm monogamous. Now, to be clear, as soon as she said no, I said, okay, no problem. And we moved on. Colleen in her videos has made it out to be like I dragged it on, like I was pushing her and pulling her and trying to get her to do this collaboration, when in reality, all I said was, okay, no problem. Totally fine. At that very moment, my internal monologue was, okay, Colleen doesn't want to do this. Who else would want to do this? And I moved on from the situation entirely. I didn't know that this was something that bothered Colleen or her partner. They did not tell me that it bothered them until weeks later when I received a DM from her partner, which Colleen also mentioned in her video. I immediately apologized over Discord message. I never got a response, and the next day they posted the video. Now, Colleen talked a lot about our conversation on her citizenship. Colleen is an American citizen who lives in Canada currently and is working towards her Canadian citizenship. She told me that she can't leave Canada right now because that would interfere with her Canadian citizenship. I, as her friend, was just curious why that was. It sounds like Colleen interpreted that as me trying to push and pull her towards this content, when in reality, I wasn't even thinking about Las Vegas anymore. I wish I could show you the video call to prove what I'm saying, but sadly, Discord doesn't store any video calls on their end. To recap, I never had a crush on Colleen. I saw her as a friend. I asked her if she and her partner wanted to come to Vegas. She said no. I said okay and moved on. This whole situation is something out of nothing, and the saddest thing is that people will believe what she's saying just because they don't like me and they want it to be true. I would have much rather dealt with this personally, one-on-one, but she didn't allow for that to happen. So here I am, speaking my piece. Thank you.
As you can see after this response video, there were a lot of parts in the video that were really off. It was a pathetic excuse of a response to gain sympathy from his fans. And shortly after Nick made that video addressing the accusations, Colleen would backfire on Nick's response with more information about how much of a piece of shit he is.
Last week, Lilly made a video completely denying her sexually harassing me, and if you're wondering why it took me so long to even respond to that, I'll get to that in a second, but here's quickly why her response was just laughably bad. Lilly failed to mention that she led me into a Discord call under false pretenses when her real motives were to film porn with me. If she were upfront, I would have said no immediately. She didn't mention that I said no or I can't 3 different times, and even after that, even after I said no to doing porn, she still sent me a link to the porn studio and said it would be mutually beneficial. The entire video, she didn't even mention OF or even spicy content once. Instead, she mentioned it as a different kind of content.
I recently decided to start making a new kind of content
And was very nonchalant about saying it was normal for content creators to collab, which is true for something like TikTok, but is much more sensitive when we're talking about making literal porn.
For the record, collaborations are super common among any kind of social media creator, be it this kind of content or other kinds of content.
And this one shocked me. She edited the word OF out of her screenshot, the one that I actually posted to my video itself uncensored.
I received a DM from her partner, which Colleen also mentioned in her video.
And she'll probably say it's for TikTok terms of service, but here, let me just put that message on the screen and watch nothing happen to this video. Lilly was trying to sanitize the entire situation to make herself seem innocent. Like, I got many comments after they come back to my video being like, oh, I didn't even know that Lilly was even talking about OF until I saw your video. And I've been frequently asked why I even went public in the first place, because Lilly had such a well-written response, right? But the reason I even went public was because I knew that immediately after I went public, Lilly would publicly act like this.
Right? And also, I had no idea they were monogamous. Most trans people I know are poly. So let's say, okay, she's monogamous, and she could have just said no.
And finally, if you're wondering why I haven't responded till now, it's because the day I was going to respond last week, I was contacted by another victim named Cassie, who was tied up in this entire Vegas situation too. Her situation is very similar to mine, except for her, Lilly stalked, groomed, and refused to take no for an answer countless times, to the point where on Lily's live streams, I was tricked because Lilly was publicly saying that she already had someone to go to Vegas with her after I said no, referencing Cassie. Turns out Cassie never said yes.
So I've been trying to say no, and she keeps pushing for it.
It was strange though, because on her TikTok lives, it sounded like you were a shoo-in to go.
Yeah, no.
One of the primary reasons that Cassie said no was because of medical reasons. Lilly would try to be like, oh, why don't you stop this medication? Why don't you stop that medication? Lilly, someone should not have to stop their medication to have sex with you. That's ridiculous and predatory.
She basically didn't believe that I was telling her that it is quite severe, to the point where I don't like travel.
Lilly had subscribed to her OF for months prior, told people in the Discord, including me, about Cassie herself. And when Cassie was being called out by Chris Tyson on Twitter for being too trans, which I think is freaking ridiculous, Lilly swooped in all friendly, saying, come to our Discord server. We're friendly here. We'll understand you. And then not too long after, asked her to go to Vegas to do porn with her. She's been aware of you and has been following you on OF for quite a while.
That's crazy enough. She knew who I was before that day.
She talked about it. Like, she talked about it multiple times.
Oh.
On a Discord, she talked about it, yeah.
What? Oh, no, that changes everything. Why hasn't she told me that? And I even told her how this happens to me all the time. Like, people, I'll meet like a set of friends, right? And then the second one of them gets me alone. They go, hey, so I actually watch your content. And then I'm like, oh, so you're trying to fuck me. And it's so often, and I'm like, oh, this is the exact same. But this is the first time it's happened to me with someone like Lilly. I honestly hate to think what could have happened to either one of us if we did agree to go to Las Vegas with Lilly. And just because me and Cassie are trans sex workers, it does not mean we do not deserve respect or boundaries. And Lilly decided to break all of those for both of us because she wanted to have sex with us.
It really pisses me off to see how somebody with such a big platform and ego thinks they can do whatever the hell they want to people and face no consequences for their actions. So after Nick got caught lying and trying to fabricate evidence, he would go into a full panic mode. He first would abandon his Discord server, basically pissing every one of his supporters that had to pay just to get in there, and he wouldn't address the reasons on why he had suddenly left his server. Now, if you thought that was the end of Nick's accusations, you would be completely wrong. Because there was a former co-worker of Nick's that would come out with an HR report that would shed on even more stuff about him. If you don't know what an HR report is, a HR report is when someone had formally filed a complaint with the Human Resources Department of their company, alleging that another employee has engaged in inappropriate behavior, violated company policies, or potentially broken the law. prompting an investigation by HR to gather facts and determine if corrective action is necessary. That already sounds bad on its own, but it gets worse once you read what the coworker said that had happened to them by Nick. So the coworker basically wrote saying, "I know that this has been brought up before, but I would like to reiterate that Nick has grown to the point where it needs a third-party HR person that can handle issues with staff. At the beginning of this year, when we were still co-workers, I had made complaints to the company that I felt uncomfortable with Nick. There were multiple instances of unwanted touches, hands on my back, hugging, to the point where other teachers had commented and asked if there was something going on between us. There was nothing going on, and it was all initiated by him. There were also repeated requests to hang out outside of work, which I repeatedly turned down. It got to the point where these requests were made almost daily. I did not feel comfortable speaking up one-on-one and would have loved a third party to handle it and go over appropriateness in the workplace. Things greatly improved when he was promoted. However, now there have been instances during camp when he arrives in the morning shirtless because he intends to shower at the site. At this point, I'm just at a loss for words. I don't understand how this disgusting, sick individual can be possibly getting away with all this stuff he has done to people for years. It really goes to show that some people who have a big fan base are able to get away with so much shit for a very long time. Now, the last accusation I want to talk about in this video is how some people are accusing Nick of being a autogynephile. If you don't know what that means, an autogynephile is a male's propensity to be sexually aroused by the thought of himself as a female. It is the paraphilia that is theorized to underlie transvestism and some forms of male-to-female, MTF, transsexualism. Now, if you've seen my last video I did on Nick, I pointed out how in some of the photos he takes, he'll tend to dress more up like a little girl instead of an actual woman. It's not just the photos that prove he's only doing this as a fetish, but also how in his Discord server, many of the members claimed that Nick would commonly talk about sex and many other inappropriate things in the server. And it's also been shown that he's becoming more open about these things as time goes by. Not to mention how Nick has been posting less frequently on TikTok and his other mainstream platforms and is now starting to post more NSFW content on his OnlyFans and second Instagram account instead. Overall, I think Nick is a horrible-ass person who needs to face consequences for his actions. It's been clearly proven he's not a transgender person, but rather someone who does this as a fetish to satisfy his needs. And Nick is willing to do whatever it takes to pleasure himself, even if that means manipulating and sexually harassing other people. As of right now, this is the end of the Lilly Contino accusations. I will post more updates on this drama as more information starts to come out. So yeah, that's it for this video. See you guys later.